The last thing I saw was his silhouette framed against the pale Polish sunlight, just before the boulders thundered down. "This will keep you safe," Marek said, his voice soft, almost tender, as if he were wrapping me in a blanket rather than sealing my fate. Then, darkness swallowed me whole, not just the absence of light, but a suffocating void that clawed at my soul. The silence was next, heavy and absolute, followed by a bone-deep chill. Not from the damp limestone walls of the cave, but from the realization that Marek, my husband of 12 years, had left me to die. 12 years. Shared mornings over bitter black tea, quiet drives through the rolling hills of Malopolska, anniversaries that had faded into routine. I was the geologist, always chasing the secrets hidden in the earth, my hands stained with clay and my mind alight with the promise of discovery. Marek was the businessman, all charisma and ambition, securing grants and charming investors with his easy smile. I thought we were a team. I was wrong. I should have seen the signs. The way his eyes glazed over when I spoke of my work, the way he'd turn away when I mentioned the rare earth elements I'd found in the Tatra Mountains, scandium and yttrium, buried deep, worth fortunes. I thought he'd be proud when I showed him the survey maps. Instead, he suggested we explore the site together, like old times. I laughed, believing we could rediscover the spark we'd lost. He packed our gear. I brought my notes. We drove through pine forests dusted with early snow, the Tatras rising like jagged teeth against the sky. I pointed out geological markers. He nodded, distant but polite. We reached the cave by midday, a narrow fissure I'd marked years ago during a survey. My heart raced with the thrill of what lay inside. Marek carried both our packs, his heavier than mine. I didn't question it. The path was steep, winding through frost-kissed rocks. I led, checking my compass. He trailed behind, silent. When we reached the cave's mouth, I felt alive. "This is it," I whispered, staring into the shadowed entrance locals called Jaskinia Siemnasai, Cave of Darkness. Just a name, I told myself. Marek didn't smile. Inside, the air was sharp, like wet iron. Our headlamps cut through the gloom, revealing walls glittering with mineral veins. I knelt, tracing a seam of scandium, my breath catching. "I was right," I said, voice trembling with awe. I began collecting samples, labeling each one. Behind me, Marek's footsteps retreated. I didn't turn, too lost in the moment. Then he called out, "Kasia, come see this." His tone stopped me cold, soft but wrong. I turned, clutching my sample case. "What is it?" He smiled, a smile that sent ice down my spine. "Just come here." I stepped closer, his headlamp casting jagged shadows. He pulled me into an embrace, his hands tight on my shoulders. "I love you, Kasia," he whispered. "You know that, right?" "Marek, what?" Before I could finish, he shoved me. My back slammed against the cave wall, pain exploding through my ribs. I stumbled, gasping as he sprinted for the entrance. Then came the roar, a cascade of rock and dust as the entrance collapsed. I screamed his name, clawing at the debris, but it was solid, unyielding. "Marek, open this!" I shouted, voice raw. His voice came through, muffled, calm. "You always loved your rocks more than me, Kasia. Now you can stay with them." Then silence. I pressed my forehead against the stone, my breath ragged. 12 years, and he'd planned this. The extra gear, the quiet drive, the false tenderness. It was all a lie. I slid to the ground, my headlamp flickering across the cave's glistening walls. I was buried alive, and no one knew. The air grew thinner, each breath a battle. Could I find a way out before the darkness claimed me? What would you do if you were trapped with no one to hear your cries? Share your thoughts below, like and subscribe for the next chapter. Time warped in the cave's suffocating embrace. Minutes or hours, I couldn't tell. My headlamp dimmed, and the drip of distant water mocked me with its steady rhythm. I had half a water bottle, one energy bar, and a dying battery. Panic clawed at my chest, but I forced myself to breathe, to think. I was a scientist. I solved problems. I scanned the cave, searching for cracks, airflow, anything. Then a flicker, not my light but another. I froze. A shadow moved, tall and deliberate, stepping into my beam. A man, broad-shouldered, with a tangled beard and eyes like flint. My heart thundered. "Who are you?" I croaked, gripping my headlamp like a club. "Easy," he said, voice low, raising empty hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." He held an old oil lantern, its glow warm against the cave's chill. His clothes were rugged, worn jacket, muddy boots, a knife sheathed at his hip. "I'm Tomek," he said, "and I think we've got a shared problem." I backed against the wall. "How did you get in here?" "There's another way," he said. "Deeper in. Not easy, but it's there." "You live here?" I asked, incredulous. He nodded. 2 years. The Tatras are quiet. Safer, in a way. His calm unnerved me, but his eyes held no malice. "He tried to kill me," I said, voice shaking. "My husband." Tomek's jaw tightened. "He didn't just trap you. He sealed the main air vent. We need to move, or you won't have enough oxygen." My stomach lurched. "Move where?" "There's a network of tunnels. One leads to an underground stream. It's risky, tight, wet, cold, but it's your way out." "Why help me?" I asked, searching his face. He met my gaze. "Because I know what it's like to be left behind." Something raw flickered in his voice, a wound I didn't yet understand. I nodded, not trusting words. He gestured toward a narrow passage. "Let's go." We moved single file, the tunnel closing in like a vice. The air grew damp, heavy with the scent of minerals. Tomek's lantern cast long shadows, his steps sure. After what felt like ages, we reached a wider chamber, his camp. Driftwood shelves held canned food, tools, a sleeping roll. A small fire pit sat beneath a natural vent. "Welcome to my palace," he said dryly, setting the lantern down. "You've lived here 2 years?" I asked, sinking onto a crate. "After I lost my brother," he said, stoking the fire. "He was all I had. The world up there, it stopped making sense." I hugged myself, the weight of Marek's betrayal sinking deeper. He said it was romantic. Just us, exploring. But he brought tools to collapse the entrance. Because of my discovery. Tomek glanced up. "The scandium?" I nodded. "Worth billions. I thought it was about science." He saw profit. Tomek handed me a tin cup of herbal tea, its warmth steadying my hands. "You saw truth." He saw greed. I stared into the fire. "What did you see when you found me?" He paused. "Someone who deserves to fight." His words lit a spark in me, but the path ahead was treacherous. Could I trust this stranger to lead me to freedom? We left before dawn, Tomek packing with quiet precision, food, rope, a water filter, spare batteries. I clutched my sample case, the scandium now more than a discovery, it was proof of Marek's crime. The tunnels grew tighter, the air colder. My body ached from the fall, but I pushed on, following Tomek's steady pace. "There's a crawl space ahead," he warned. 10 meters, narrow. "Stay calm. If you panic, stop and call out." Claustrophobia hadn't haunted me before, but now it loomed. Tomek slid into the gap, his lantern a faint glow. I followed, belly to the stone, my breath loud in my ears. "Talk to me," I whispered. "My brother, Jan," he said, voice steady. "He loved these mountains. We climbed together. A storm hit and he fell. I couldn't reach him." His words anchored me as I inched through the stone's embrace. We emerged into a chamber of shimmering stalactites, their tips glowing like stars. My chest eased. "Thanks," I said. "For talking." "Keeps the fear at bay," he replied. The air grew humid, the distant roar of water growing louder. We reached a ledge overlooking a black, churning underground river. "There's a path along the wall," Tomek said. Then a crossing. I've done it once. We can make it. The ledge was slick, barely wide enough for 1 foot. Tomek offered his hand, steadying me as we edged along. My legs burned, my fingers numb from gripping the rock. At one point, we waded through icy water, the current pulling at my thighs. Tomek's voice guided me. Step sideways. Hold the wall. We reached a dry outcrop, shivering. He wrapped a mylar blanket around me, his own breath visible in the chill. You're stronger than you know, he said. I met his eyes. So are you. The river roared, a final barrier between me and freedom. Could I face its pull and emerge alive? The crossing was a tunnel of rushing water, barely wide enough to swim. 5 meters, Tomek said. I'll go first. Wait for my signal. He dove, vanishing into the black. I counted seconds, each one heavier than the last. What if he didn't make it? What if I couldn't? A splash. Tomek surfaced, waving. Clear. I plunged in. The cold stole my breath, the current twisting me like a leaf. I tucked my arms, letting it carry me until I felt the slope. I kicked upward, lungs burning, and broke the surface. Tomek pulled me onto stone, wrapping me in a blanket. You did it, he said. I laughed, half sobbing. I thought I was gone. Not today, he said, his voice a lifeline. The air grew fresher, tinged with pine. We climbed upward, light filtering through vines at the tunnel's end. I stepped out first, the sun warm on my face. The tatra stretched before me, alive with birdsong and wind. Tears fell as I breathed free air. Tomek joined me. Welcome back. We descended to Zakopane, 3 hours away. The town felt unreal, its wooden chalets and bustling market a stark contrast to the cave's silence. At a cafe, a TV played, Marek, in a suit, speaking to reporters. It was an accident, he said, eyes downcast. Kasia fell. I tried to save her. Rage surged. He's lying, I whispered. Tomek nodded. Sheriff's office is nearby. At the station, I declared, I'm Katarzyna Nowak, and I'm reporting an attempted murder. The officer's eyes widened. I showed my samples, recounted Marek's words. Tomek corroborated every detail. The sheriff typed, then cursed. He filed a death certificate yesterday. Already claiming your discovery. Marek thought he'd won, but I was alive. Could I confront him and reclaim my truth? The next morning, we drove back to the cave. Detectives had set a trap. Marek was meeting investors, unaware I'd survived. From a hidden vantage point, I heard his voice, smooth and grieving. Kasia loved this place. I want to honor her by developing this site. The detective signaled. I stepped out, boots crunching on gravel. Marek froze, his face draining of color. Kasia, he stammered. Hello, Marek, I said, voice steady. Planning my funeral already? Officers moved in. We have evidence, the detective said. Witnesses, recordings. Marek Nowak, you're under arrest for attempted murder. He stared, motionless, as they cuffed him. Kasia, I didn't mean. Don't, I cut in. You buried me. But the truth doesn't stay buried. As they led him away, I felt no triumph, only exhaustion. Tomek stood nearby, a quiet anchor. You okay? He asked. It's done, I said. Or close enough. I'd faced my betrayer, but what came next? Could I rebuild after such a fracture? Weeks later, the 38-year-old Polish woman stood at Jaskinia Siemnasai, now just a cave again. Her discovery, renamed Nowak's vein, was hers once more. The institute welcomed her back, and she led a team to study the site sustainably. The 35-year-old Polish man joined them, teaching survival skills, his presence a steady comfort. One evening, the 35-year-old Polish man brought tea to her office, the Tatra stars bright outside. I've been thinking, he said. I want to stay. Build something real. She smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in years. I'd like that. They clinked mugs, the sounds soft against the night. The cave had been her prison, then her salvation. Now it was a beginning. With a 35-year-old Polish man beside her, she wasn't afraid. The mountains stretched wide, and she was ready to live again.